Testing. Testing. Testing.
Checking. Oh, yeah, that's not great. PTSD. Is there any way to turn off the automatic microphone function?
great. Maybe I'll do that with some of my cookbooks.
I do.
That's a great idea.
Cookbooks. 'Cause
Okay, well, it's 5:30, and I'd like to call this meeting of the Board of Zoning Appeals to order. Today is February 7th, 2024, and Ms. Nestor Jelen, would you kindly call the roll?
Yes. Pamela Davidson,
Oh, I'm here.
Guy Loftman,
I'm here. I'm trying to get my mic on.
okay. Dee Owens,
Yes.
Margaret Clemens,
Here?
Skip Daly, and I believe he is going to be attending, but maybe a little bit later.
Okay,
So we have 4 members and a quorum.
okay. Is there a motion to introduce the evidence?
I will make a motion to introduce the evidence tonight.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to introduce the following items into the evidence. The Monroe County Comprehensive Land Use Plan is adopted and amended. The Monroe County Zoning Ordinance has adopted and amended. The Monroe County Subdivision Control Ordinance has adopted and amended. The Board of Zoning Appeals Rules of Procedure has adopted and amended, and the case is advertised and scheduled for a hearing on tonight's agenda.
Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
I'll second that.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to approve the introduction of evidence. A vote in favor is a vote to approve. Guy Loftman,
Yes.
Dee Owens,
Yes.
Margaret Clemens,
Yes.
Pamela Davidson.
Yes.
Motion carries 4-0.
Okay, and I'm just going to make an announcement and a request to the people who came into the meeting after it started. You'll save us time in the end if you would kindly sign in up at the podium while we can conduct this initial administrative business. Just if you would kindly just sign in. Then when it's your turn to speak, we won't have to wait for that. Okay, so we move on to tonight's approval of agenda. Is there a motion to approve?
I move that we approve tonight's agenda.
Second.
I'll second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to approve the agenda as advertised. Dee Owens,
Yes.
Margaret Clemens.
Yes.
Pamela Davidson,
Yes.
Guy Loftman.
Yes.
Motion carries 4-0.
Okay, and we have no minutes to review for this portion of the meeting, and we move on to administrative business, and that's the election of the chair and the vice chairperson.
Well, I wish Skip were here. Do we expect him?
He would be logging in. He's traveling, I think, to a concert, so I think he's probably trying to log in, but
Well, I move to nominate Margaret Clemens as chairperson.
A second.
and I just would like to say that Skip said he was willing to serve. He sent an
Thank
email.
you. Thank you.
Yeah.
I missed that.
Yeah.
And I would also nominate Skip Daly for vice chairperson.
Second.
Okay,
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to elect Margaret Clemens as chair and Skip Daly as vice chair. A vote in favor is a vote to elect those 2 members. Margaret Clemens,
yes?
Pamela Davidson,
Enthusiastically, yes.
Guy Loftman,
Yes.
Dee Owens.
Yes.
Okay, motion carries
Well, thank you.
4-0.
Thank you for your continued respect of how I conduct a meeting, and I really appreciate the faith that you put in me. So thank you. And we move on now to old business. We have none, and then, no, we have the proposed changes to the BZA Rules of Procedure regarding amended petitions. And this looks very interesting to discuss, and if I don't know which member of the staff will review this with us.
Margaret, Skip has expressed concerns about certain issues in this, so maybe we ought to wait to see if he chimes in and just change out our order a little bit, just because we know he's had comments about it.
Sure. If you
Would that be all right with
Yeah,
you,
that would be
Margaret?
wonderful. Is anybody else opposed? Let's have a motion to review this amendment this change to the rules of procedure, should Mr. Daly be able to log in, and we will do it around that time.
I will make that motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, great. Then we move on to the regular business, the new business, which is the first item is CDU-24-1, Bland Bed and Breakfast Conditional Use to Chapter 813, concerning 1.25 plus or minus acre parcel in Perry Township, Section 21, at 1398 East Roar Road. And I believe Mr. Smith will be reviewing this with us, so thank you.
Thank you, Margaret. So this is a request for a conditional use to Chapter 813, and the purpose is to establish a bed and breakfast at 1398 East Roar Road. The petition site is currently zoned to state residential, also known as RE1, in which bed and breakfast is conditional. So the petitioner is seeking a conditional use to list the current primary residence as the bed and breakfast space, and to convert the second floor garage into the primary residence. So they're flip-flopping. So the definition of bed and breakfast is an operator occupied residence in which 4 or fewer guest rooms and breakfast are furnished to the public under a short-term lodging agreement. So these are the conditions that follow Chapter 813. To kind of save time, the petitioner does meet all of these requirements except for letter B. And letter B states all conditions, regulations, and development standards required in the zoning ordinance shall be satisfied. So some reasoning behind that is that the bed and breakfast is a conditional use in RE1, and it appears that it does not meet the owner-occupied requirement of the definition of bed and breakfast. So what is currently the primary residence being proposed for the bed and breakfast is not connected to the proposed primary residence. So that's the reasoning behind that. So on the right-hand side is the petitioner's site plan that was submitted to staff. And then on the left-hand side, that is a staff-submitted site plan to kind of provide some clarity as to what is happening here. So this green area right here is the second floor garage. That is what is being proposed to be converted into the primary residence. And this orange box over here is the existing primary residence to be converted into the bed and breakfast. And this is just the location and site conditions map that are also located in the packet. As far as environmental concerns go, there's not really anything that sticks out at this site. The comprehensive plan designates this area as mixed residential. But some background on this location. So in January of 2023, staff received a property complaint citing 3 issues. The first being building without permits, the second being grading without permits, and the third being a storing of vehicles at the site. So the living space that was built above the garage was built without permits by the previous property owner. A gravel parking lot was constructed behind the residence without grading permits. And there are several vehicles that remain at the site, and staff is unsure exactly how long they have been there. And then I just have a photo of the vehicles that were currently stored there when staff conducted a site visit. And then these are just some site photos. So we have here kind of at the top of the screen, this is where the existing garage is, as well as the addition that was added to it that was built without permits. And this is the structure that is being proposed to become the primary residence. And then in the kind of the bottom right-hand corner here, that is what the current primary residence looks like. This is just the petitioner's letter and owner consent to pursue this conditional use request. These are also included in the packet. This leads us to our staff recommendation. So staff does recommend denial. on the basis that it cannot meet at least all of the standards in Chapter 813. So the site contains 2 residences. Staff recommends reviewing the ordinance requirements and resubmitting a site plan that complies with the bed and breakfast definition. And as previously stated, it is the operator occupied residence in which 4 or fewer guest rooms are furnished to the public under a short-term lodging agreement. However, should the applicant comply with the definition of the bed and breakfast use, such as connecting the 2 principal use structures to create 1 residence, and continue their conditional use request, staff would recommend that the petitioner bring the property into compliance with the current zoning ordinance through 3 conditions that I have here. The first being acquiring an after-the-fact building permit to allow the 2nd floor garage addition to remain as the primary residence. The second condition being applying for a grading permit to remediate the illegal parking area. And number 3, removing the storage of vehicles/equipment on the illegal parking area. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. Do members of the Board of Zoning Appeals have questions for staff?
I just have a reference question. The reason for this category to be connected, these 2 units to be connected, is because of the owner occupied? Is that really the thrust of why that regulation exists? I'm trying to get my head around why that's important in terms of a regulation. Context, that's what I'm looking for.
Yes, so in regards to the definition, it says an operator occupied residence. If we deviate from the definition for this conditional use, we don't really have a good idea of what deviation wouldn't be permitted beyond the deviation being asked for, if that makes sense. So if they had 4 residences on the lot and they wanted 3 bed and breakfasts, none of them connected, would we be able to permit that? So this is a situation where we're trying to, even though it's a small deviation in a sense, it does say operator occupied residence, not residences. So it's 2 primary structures on 1 lot. And so if we connect them, they will meet the definition.
And if
Thank you.
might add to that a little bit, the reason for owner occupied bed and breakfast as opposed to one that is not owner occupied is to protect and preserve the concept of neighborhood living, so that, that all of the homes are not just rented out on short-term rentals, that somebody actually lives on the property. And that is, am I correct in saying that?
Yes, and I believe in the PowerPoint, just want to make sure it's clear, it is operator occupied. So technically, the owner does not have to be the operator. It can be somebody else, but that there is somebody on the site all the time when there is a rental, which is different than the tourist home or cabin,
Yes.
a different use in which the owner does not have to be present, and the bar for that is a little bit higher. So this is a conditional use for bed and breakfast, and they meet everything except for the operator occupied residence being
Yes.
1 structure.
So this has come up in a previous case.
Yes.
With bed and breakfast, you actually have to offer breakfast. So is that part of what they've committed to do with this? Because that is another layer on that. I remember that.
Yes, you remember well. Huh. Yes.
Yeah, I believe the petitioner stated that they would meet those requirements, so.
Yes.
I have a question.
Yes, Dee.
What, and Jackie kind of poked at it. Why wouldn't this be considered, or couldn't this be considered, and I think I know the answer, a tourist cabin? Is it because it's in the wrong zone?
Yes, RE1 does not have the tourist cabin use. In addition, I believe the intent of the owner is to utilize the 2 detached structures, both as principal structures, both as residences. So because the garage is detached, And then an addition of living space was made over top without a building permit. We're now in the difficult situation of trying to advise a potential buyer of how to meet the code requirements and still be able to use them as it was constructed.
Okay, thank you.
Yes,
I'm back to the owner versus
operator.
operator occupied. It seems to me that well, in the comment section, in the analysis section, background section, it says bed and breakfast. It appears the request does not meet the owner occupied requirement of the definition of bed and breakfast. It seems to me that that's inaccurate. It's that there is no owner occupied, there is an operator occupied. And as I understand, the son of the owner is going to live there full time and operate it full time. So as I hear this, read this, it seems to me that condition of operator occupied is satisfied. Now, there are other things to look at, but that seems to be the main, or one of the important ones. Am I missing a boat here?
So under condition B, I do believe that was a typo. Apologies for that. It's supposed to be operator occupied, so you're correct, in line with that definition. So the son, which he will be the operator, will be in the primary structure over top of the garage. And then the bed and breakfast will be in the primary, what looks like the primary residence. That's one story, it's one bedroom. So the operator will not be in the same residence as the bed and breakfast while being occupied.
Okay.
Be essentially in an ADU.
Next door.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He would-
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. That seems to me what we've got here is a auxiliary dwelling unit.
Right.
Would be a way to look at this. And in order to be a bed and breakfast, it has to be the operator and the renters living occupying the same building.
Yes.
Okay, that's the piece I was missing, and I've now got it clear. Thanks for helping me get on board.
Great. Okay, well, we'll turn now to the petitioner. If Mr. Bland or his representative is here and would like to present your request to us, please come to the podium and I will sign you in. Or if Mr. Bland is online here, if tech services could unmute him or help him to unmute, then he would have 15 minutes to address us. It's right there on the right. Yeah, there he is.
Mr. Bland, you should be able to unmute. I believe Tech Services has promoted you.
Oh, there you go.
Hear me?
Mr. Bland, would you kindly raise your right hand, and do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you. Well, you have 15 minutes to review this with us and to tell us what you want to do and why you want to do it.
Obviously, first of all, I'd like to thank the staff and everybody. Sean Smith, I've been working with him for the last couple months on it. He's been very helpful and insightful, and genuine with time. The only thing that I think we're going to run into, I don't have any problem with, obviously cleaning up the trucks and stuff. They don't belong to me, but I've talked to the representative of the state, and they're going to be willing to help me move those out and get a grading permit and put the lawn back in. The only thing that I am opposed to, I mean, this came up late in the discussion, was to attach the two dwellings together. It's just not cost effective for the project. Everything else, I think we would be fine with moving forward. That would be my only contingent. I just not willing to attach the two units together.
Is there anything else you'd like to add?
No, I don't think so. I think everything's been covered.
Would you say that it would be a hardship to connect the buildings together?
I just don't think it's cost effective for the project. I didn't factor that in when I made the offer. And, like I said, I think this came about maybe Monday. I found out that they had to be attached. So maybe it's last Friday or Monday, just really recently. So, I had no idea that was going to be kind of thrown in there at the last minute. And it was just overlooked. It was nobody's fault. It was just something that was overlooked, and they came across it and let me know that that would have to be a part of it getting passed. And I just said, as far as the cost of the project, I wouldn't be able to afford to do that to make it work. So.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Bland. Do members of the BZA have questions for Mr. Bland?
I have a question, Mr. Bland. Is it true your son is still planning to live in that unit and manage the property?
Yes, that's correct. And like I spoke with Sean, I said things change in life. I mean, he's a young man. He's single and everything. I can't guarantee that for the future. I mean, I don't know exactly how that would pan out. I'm not going to tell you that he's going to live there forever, because nothing's forever. Would know I miss it. And but that being said, I don't know that in the spirit of this as operator or occupied residence, if you couldn't designate someone that was maybe renting that property or something to be the operator of the bed and breakfast, it'd be part of the deal, as far as their rent or something. So.
Okay. Well, thank you very much. I'm going to now turn to the public. If there are members of the public who would like to speak in favor of this petition, please come to the podium or raise your virtual hand on this interface and make your presence and your wish to speak known. We don't see anyone. If there is anyone member of the public who would like to speak in opposition to this petition, please come to the podium or raise your virtual hand so that we can identify you. Well, we see no one, so we come back to members of the BZA for further discussion and or a motion.
Mr. Bland, I have one additional question. Do you have neighbors out there, and are they impacted at all by having a rental unit on that property?
I've spoken with a few of them. They had questions for me. I think their biggest concern is the previous owner. He just put the parking area in the back and stuck all those trucks and trailers in there. And I think their biggest concern is someone to clean all that mess up, which that's part of what I'd be willing to do to make everything happen. But as far as, I haven't spoke with anybody that would be against it in any way.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other discussion or motion?
Well, before I get to that, let me
Yes.
ask staff another question. There's Dadu, is this, if one is occupied, it has to be a relative to be a Dadu. So it doesn't qualify as a Dadu because the renters won't be in the same family as the operator. Is my recollection correct on that?
So a dadu is, that does have an affidavit stating that the owner would live on the property either in the primary structure or in the accessory dwelling unit, and I don't believe that's the petitioner's intent.
No.
The dadu and the tourist home are both not permitted uses in this RA1 zone. So when Mr. Bland came in to meet with us to discuss his intentions on the site, this was really one of the few options that exists.
And has Mr. Bland bought the property, or is he considering buying the property?
I believe Mr. Bland could give you the best information for that question.
Yeah.
I don't know.
In answer to that question, the offer is contingent the zoning to go through as far as, because the previous owner just kind of went in and did what he wanted to do, no permits or anything. And we're just trying to figure out some way of cleaning up the mess and moving forward. So without approval, I would not buy the property.
Thank you.
That's interesting.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So I'm just thinking out loud here. Mr. Bland is trying to find a way to get out of a problem the owner created for himself. But he didn't create the problem. And if this solution doesn't work, he's out a lot of effort and talking with people in government, which is nobody's favorite thing to do. But he doesn't have anything other than trying to make an investment, find out. And if we just say no, which is the obvious answer, if we don't make an exception, then the current owner is out of compliance. Is that right, staff?
Yes, so the current owner, I believe, is the person who built these structures, been transferred to an estate. They've been deceased. So it is in an estate right now. And so.
Oh, how interesting. Turn over another, dig into another layer of the onion. So the estate is stuck with real estate that the deceased party did not follow guidelines to build, but now the estate's trying to figure out what to do with it, which is another layer of human interest and sympathy.
I believe there is someone with their, if you would like to entertain someone with their hand raised, I believe the attorney for the estate is on the call if you have specific questions for
Yes.
them, if you'd like to entertain that.
Yes, Ms. Parker, if tech services could unmute Angela Parker. I'm sure she's an attorney, so she doesn't have to be sworn in. So Angela Parker, you may also have to do something on your end to unmute yourself so that you could speak. Hello. Yes.
I think thank you. Yes, thank you for allowing me to speak. I thought I just might clarify a couple of points. So first of all, I agree with Bob. Thank you so much for all the work the planning has done to try to find a way to make this work. I do in fact represent the estate of David Howard. David individually and solely owns the limited liability company that owns this property at 1398 Orr Road. We're certainly looking for ways to move this property forward. Mr. Bland stepped up and said that he could take on the project and finish the project and make it work. But obviously we've got problems from things that occurred during the decedent's lifetime that are now creating issues for the estate. We will be working with someone to remove and restore where the vehicles and so that condition will be met. We're in the process of working through that right now. So there's no issue with that condition. I think that will make the adjacent owners very happy to have that cleaned up. But the primary issue is what are we able to do with the property reasonably to move this forward. We have a willing buyer, we have a contract, but we have a problem with the practicality of getting it done. So on behalf of the estate, I certainly appreciate this body's consideration of anything we might do to accomplish that. If you have other questions about that, of course, I'd be happy to answer it, but I did want to make that statement. Thank you.
Do members of the BZA have questions for Ms. Parker?
Yeah, but I don't know what they are.
Yeah.
I can appreciate that in this case, believe me.
To me, on this particular case, if I might speak out loud, it seems as though practical difficulties are certainly in play, and that there's not, to me, a huge difference between the separation of the garage from the bed and breakfast. That being said, we are looking at kind of changing a precedent And I think that these kind of issues might come up more and more as there's been an increased building of accessory dwelling units across the county and detached accessory dwelling units. And so there would presumably be increased pressure on the BZA to make these kinds of exceptions over and over again. It looks as though the environment would be improved by this transaction. It looks as though the practical difficulties have certainly been met. And it seems to me as though this is a good resolution without very little complaint of the surrounding neighbors. So with that being said, I wonder what my colleagues feel about this particular petition. Ms. Owens has her hand raised.
Thank you very much. Yeah, I agree with you, Madam Chair. And additionally, the staff has laid out what things need to be done if we approve this. And the only issue that I see is that the two buildings aren't attached. The buyer is guaranteeing that there will be an operator on site.
That's right.
So I think that's the big problem, is not having an operator. If there's going to be an operator, whether it's his son or not, it makes sense to me that we've met the basic requirement necessary considering this particular property, which is what we're here to look at, are exceptions that are that need the human eye and hand on them. Yes.
Indeed, they're going to serve breakfast.
Well, I might have to go over, you know.
But, and yes. And how do you feel, Mr. Loftman? What are your thoughts on this?
Well, let me say, one of the things that I really appreciate about this is Mr. Bland did due diligence and didn't go buy this without figuring out there might be a problem.
Yeah.
And then come to us saying, gee, I'm sorry I didn't do that, which we've heard a great deal. So I want to give a shout out to Mr. Bland and anybody else in the public who checks these things before they pay the money. But and I certainly don't like the precedent of letting somebody get by with building a garage above, building a home above the garage they're not allowed to, or having a detached bed and breakfast. But the death of the guy who we would punish sort of moots that.
He's met his punishment.
And under the circumstances, I move to approve CDU 24-1 concerning the residents at 1398 East Rohrer Road, Bloomington, Indiana, to allow the proposed bed and breakfast as a use variance on the grounds that there would be no injury to the public health, safety, or welfare. In fact, it seems to improve the public welfare. No reason to believe that this is going to reduce the property of any adjoining property owners or nearby owners, because it's going to clean the place up and keep it from being derelict. The need arises from conditions peculiar to the property involved. That usually doesn't have to be the owner, but the fact that the owner died is pretty peculiar. And I'm going to say it meets my standards. And it would be an unnecessary hardship to require putting these buildings together with some sort of a stupid carport, walkway that goes between them, or some other idea. And certainly this saves property from being unusable, which I think is always an important factor.
I believe that Ms. Nestor-Jelen has a question.
I just want to make a note. This is a conditional use, so make sure that the findings you create are in line with 813-8 as opposed to the use variance or design standard variance
Oh.
criteria. So just
Oh.
want to make sure that's on
Oh, I
page
can-
13 of the staff
I got it,
packet.
13.
We have listed the conditions. So if they meet the conditions of the conditional use, including the standards written out in black, where the answers are in red, then that would be evidence for submitting approval or recommending approval of the conditional use. Thanks.
Okay. How redundant am I? It's a conditional, okay, help me out here. How does okay, it meets the conditional use requirements of chapter 813.
And
You could
does
just
not-
maybe address B, since that's the one that staff
Right.
mentioned as
Right,
meeting.
that it is, while it does not technically meet that requirement, there will be an operator on the premises, and the difficulties of the circumstances of the real estate and the ownership situation make me willing to waive that concern. It will not conflict with the purposes of the zoning. The conditional use is served by adequate utilities and does not involve any element that may be dangerous, injurious, or noxious to other property.
But is it also subject to the conditions of acquiring and after the fact building permit to allow the second floor garage addition to remain as their primary residence? And does it also, is it also subject to Mr. Bland applying for a grading permit to remediate the illegal parking areas? And is it subject to Mr. Bland removing the storage of vehicles, equipment on the illegal parking area?
Took the words right out of my mouth.
Okay.
I'm going to second that one.
Yes.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to approve CDU-24-1, which is the Bland Bed and Breakfast conditional use with the 3 conditions stated in the staff report. I will read those out loud. Acquiring an after-the-fact building permit to allow the second floor garage addition to remain as the primary residence. 2, applying for a grading permit to remediate the illegal parking area. And 3, removing the storage of vehicles / equipment on the illegal parking area. A vote in favor is a vote to approve the conditional use with those conditions as required. Guy Loftman,
Yes.
Dee Owens,
Yes.
Pamela Davidson,
Yes.
Margaret Clements.
Yes.
Okay, the conditional use passes 4-0.
And thank you, Mr. Bland, and thank you for working so well with our staff. It's so much nicer to work together than in opposition. So we really appreciated your kind words about Mr. Smith. Thank you.
And good luck with that, Angela Parker.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so we move on to the second item on the agenda, and it's VAR-23-48, and this is concerning 6545 South Shields Ridge Road, and this is a minimum lot width variance. I believe that's all right. No? No, there are 5 variances involved with this.
That one's continued.
Oh, that one's continued. Okay. It's VAR-23-48 concerning one parcel on 2.89 plus or minus acres in Perry Township, Section 36 at 6545 South Shields Ridge Road. Sorry, I didn't have time to go and print up my index on the packet. So, Mr. Brown, if you would kindly review the case with us.
Thank you. So this is one design standards variance, chapter 804. The purpose was to establish a single-family residence at 6545 South Shields Ridge Road. This variance was triggered by a residential building permit, R-23-1119. The petitioner intends to build a 1,742 square foot single-family residence at this property. The certified plot plan also shows a future proposed barn that will be 2,240 square feet estimated. However, this is not being constructed at this time. The minimum lot width variance will be necessary for any development to occur on this lot, as it was found during review that the property is only roughly 130 feet in width at the building line, and the minimum lot width for an agriculture rural reserve lot is 200 feet. Hence, this variance was triggered. If the variance is approved, the petitioner's residential building permit will be allowed to proceed, as this is the minimum variance needed for the owner to do further development on the lot in the future. If the petition is denied, then the building permit will also be denied. And here we have just a location map and site conditions map of the area, as well as a comprehensive plan and current zoning map, which also shows that this is in the Eco 2 zone. However, all of the proposed development is going to be out of areas that are 15% slope or greater. Thus, there is no triggering in Eco 2 area variance. And here are just some rough pictures of the property. These two foundations you can see on these images are the only developments that I saw currently on the property when I did a site visit. And here is the proposed site plan. Now, I'd like to address the condition of approval that was established with this, as well as explain what the purpose of it was. So as you can see from the image on the top left, which you may be able to make out the writing, they correctly mark that this is going to be a 35-foot front setback, as Shields Ridge Road is considered a collector. However, the setback table in a typo says only 25 feet and marks it as a local road. We have since, so we established the condition of approval to correct that. However, since the packet has gone out, we have received an updated site plan, which you can see on the bottom right here, where they do accurately reflect that it's going to be 35 feet from the right-of-way for front setback, as well as establish it as a minor collector rather than a local road. And hence, this is just staff is only recommending approval as the condition of approval has been addressed.
Oh, great. We like that. We like that. Do members of the BZA have questions for staff?
Well done.
Very well done. Very well.
Thank you.
Thanks. Okay, is Mr. Killian here, and would you like to come to the podium and I'll swear you in? I think you were kind enough to sign in earlier. Please raise your right hand, and do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Thank you. And you have 15 minutes if you need it to go over this with us.
Thank you. Excuse me, is your microphone on? I don't hear.
Is it green?
Press the other button.
Is it green now? No.
Hello?
Yes, we can hear you
Now
now.
we see.
Okay.
Otherwise, it doesn't go through to the public who's not here, and I
Sure.
think that's important.
Understood. Well, then I would like to repeat my appreciation for Daniel and his presentation and planning department. Property owner is also here, Eric Bolerdick. We agree with staff and that this request meets all three of the criteria needed for approval. We appreciate your consideration and request your support on the variance. We're happy to answer any questions either I or Mr. Bolerdick you might have.
Do members of the BZA have questions for Mr. Killian? No. Okay, well, if members of the public speak in opposition to it, you will have a 5-minute rebuttal period.
Understood.
Okay, so I'm going to open this up now. Pardon me?
Do I need to turn this off?
No, leave it on because then we won't have to do that again. So do members of the public wish to speak in favor or in opposition to this petition? If so, please come to the podium, raise your virtual hand, or are they able to call in now with this new software, Teams?
And
Okay,
I believe that they can call in. The issue is the raising of the hand.
yes.
That is not easily determined by a phone call, but we do provide a number on the events calendar for people to call in.
Okay, and we don't see anybody calling in by phone,
No.
so it's not really relevant. So we don't see anybody who would wish to speak in favor or in opposition to this petition. So we move back to the BZA. You may sit down and then we'll discuss it and/or make our decision. Any further discussion or a motion?
I'm going to move to accept variance 23-48, the Killian minimum lot width variance to Chapter 804 for property located at 6545 South Shields Ridge Road. Unless it's already been kind of moved in a way because of the change in the petition, or is it not moved?
There is still the need to make a motion regarding the minimum lot width
All right.
variance.
Yes.
The
All right.
change was that there is no longer a
Setback.
condition of approval.
Yeah,
All right, terrific. So
Second,
okay.
It's been moved and seconded to approve VAR-23-48, the Killian minimum lot width variance to Chapter 804. A vote in favor is a vote to approve the minimum lot width variance. Guy Loftman,
Yes.
Dee Owens,
yes.
Pamela Davidson,
yes.
Margaret Clemens.
Yes.
Okay, motion carries 4-0.
Well, thank you very much for coming tonight, and thank you for working so well with our staff. We wish you the best of luck. Take care. Okay, we move on to variance 23-50A and B. This is the May minimum lot size variance to Chapter 804, the May Eco Area 2 buildable area variance to Chapter 825, and this concerns 3.34 plus or minus acre parcels in Clear Creek Township, Section 36 at 5251 East Prince Road. And Ms. Crecelius, if you would kindly review this with us.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you. So the property is 3.34 acres. It's an unplatted property. As you stated, it's in Clear Creek Township. So the property is zoned forest reserve and in the environmental constraints Eco Area 1 and Eco Area 2. The property was formerly a residential use and is currently, the structures have been demolished and so the property is undeveloped. This is similar to adjacent properties. They are also zoned similarly and are either residential in use or undeveloped and vacant. So here's just a photo from, I believe, 2000, and I believe this aerial image is from 2005. So this just shows the property when it was developed with a residence. So there was a residential structure and also a detached kind of barn or garage. So the petitioner submitted a building permit in order to construct a new pole barn on the property. At this time, the planning staff was able to identify that 2 variances would be needed. So first would be from the minimum lot size standard. This is because the Forest Reserve zoning district does require a minimum of 5 acres. And then secondly, because of, so the majority of the site is in the Eco Area 2, which has a buildable area requirement of 1 acre. So a contiguous 1 acre area of 18%, my apologies, 15% slope. Let's jump forward. So here on the screen is just an approximation of the 15% slope area. This is measuring at about 0.800 of an acre, so less than 1 acre, that minimum requirement. So in order to develop the property with any new structure, these 2 variances are the minimum required.
Okay.
So still going, just a few more.
Yeah.
So regarding the forest reserve and the 5 acre lot size, something that we sometimes do is look at adjacent parcels in the area. So I have looked at parcels that are, I made a quick spatial analysis, which is the map on the screen. So these are parcels that are zoned forest reserve and are also under 5 acres within a half mile. So there are about 18 other parcels in the area. So not too unusual that this smaller lot size is occurring. Of course, there's still very large parcels in this area, as you can see. Okay. So I'm just going to pause sharing for 1 moment because my slides did not update. Got a few more on here. Okay. So here are a couple of site photos. So this first is just looking north. This is actually looking at the building pad from the original barn that was demolished. So there was an electrical permit pulled earlier this year. So the electrical is essentially ready for a new structure. The petitioner is proposing a 32 by 32 residential storage structure on that same foundation, that same concrete foundation. The petitioner does intend to use the property in the future as a residence again, but currently at this time, this residential storage structure would just simply be for storage. Mm-hmm. So the next photo is just looking kind of out at the property towards the public road. So in a southeast direction. And then this photo would be looking northwest at the property. Where the planning car is parked, this is an outdated driveway. That driveway is no longer functioning. And they do have a new driveway off of Prince Road, East Guthrie Road, which you can see on the right side of the photo on the screen. Okay, so staff's recommendation is to approve both variances, so VAR 2350A and VAR 2350B, subject to any highway department reports, which we have received none. Does anybody have any questions?
I have a quick question. You said that as you drove around and you saw 18 perhaps other such structures on these smaller lots in the area, and the barn that was originally there that got demolished, that the foundation is still intact that he's going to use. Were any of those permitted, or does it even matter?
I did not check for permits for the structures that were on the property originally. They were old enough that we probably didn't have the documentation. Regarding the analysis of the 18 parcels, it gives us some idea as to whether this is like a really unusual situation or not, but it's not necessarily hard, cold fact, because when we do a spatial analysis like this, we know that multiple parcels can make up one lot. So that's kind of just to take it with a grain of salt when we look at how many parcels are in an area that are smaller than that lot size minimum. It just kind of helps us if it's really unusual or if it's a little more common in the area or not.
I believe, if I'm not overstating it, but Anne is really a geospatial kind of pilot, so to speak, and so she's able to do that kind of analysis, and it helps us out. Awesome. So, but are there other questions for staff? I can't see if Ms. Owens has any questions.
None at all, thank you.
Okay, thank you. So if the Mays are here, or the representatives, if you would kindly come to the podium, and if you have, if you would like to talk with us about this case, you would have 15 minutes to make your plea. So, and have you already signed in, sir? Have you already signed in? I'm so sorry. Okay, if you would kindly sign in, and then I will swear you in, and then we'll be official.
We have a pen.
There, yeah. Okay, we had one up there earlier, but that's okay.
Pens disappear.
That's right.
Mic is not on, sir.
You have to push the button on the right until it turns green. There we go.
Gotcha.
Thank you.
Gotcha.
You got it. Thank you.
Yes, I purchased property for my daughter back in July. She helps me out down home quite a bit and get her closer to me. Yeah, I'd like to throw up a pole barn where it was, the same, not disturbing no soil, just throw up the same size right on top of the concrete. So that's what I'm asking for.
Sounds pretty good, and I forgot to swear you in. Would you kindly raise your right hand, and do you swear that everything you said was true and that you told the truth.
Yes, I told the truth.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, yes.
Thank you. Okay, so is there anybody else in your party who would like to speak with us? It's not required, but it sounds like a nice plan to be closer together.
That's what I'm trying to do.
That's great.
My daughter, I don't know if she wants to speak or not.
It's okay. So then we'll open it up to the public. And if anybody speaks for
Okay.
or against it, we may call you back if anybody speaks against it. Okay, so if there are members of the public who would like to speak in favor of this petition, please come to the podium or raise your virtual hand. Okay, we don't see anyone. If there's anybody who would like to speak in opposition to this petition, please come to the podium or raise your virtual hand or indicate that you would like to speak in some way. If not, we come back to the BZA and for further discussion and or a motion.
I think I'm ready to move to accept variance 23-50A, the May minimum lot size variance to chapter 804, and also variance 23-50B, the May Eco Area 2 buildable area variance to chapter 825.
And is this subject to the Highway Department reports?
It is so subject to the Highway Department.
And is this like the minimum difference that could be done in order to help them achieve their goals? And is it not injurious to the neighborhood or property values surrounding it? And is this based on the reasons that are required for this exception?
It is, and that's why you're the chair, Margaret.
And that's why I'll second it.
It's true.
Okay.
ESP, she knows what we're thinking.
Okay. Thank you.
ESP.
Well,
yeah.
and I think that Dee, did you second that?
I did. Yes, I did.
Okay, so
It's been moved and seconded to approve VAR-23-50A, which is the minimum lot size, and VAR-23-50B, which is the eco area buildable area variance to chapter 825. A vote yes is a vote to approve both variances. Pamela Davidson,
Yes.
Margaret Clemens.
yes.
Guy Loftman,
Yes.
Dee Owens.
Yes.
Okay, motion carries 4-0.
Okay, well, thank you very much, and thanks for coming tonight, and we wish you happiness and good health. Okay, we move on to item number 10, VAR-24-1, La Roche front yard setback to chapter 804 concerning 9.58 plus or minus acre parcel in Bloomington Township, section 31 at 6893 North Maple Grove Road. And Mr. Smith, if you would kindly review this case with us.
Absolutely. So the request is a front yard setback variance to chapter 804. The purpose is to allow for the construction of a new carport structure. The petition site is designated as Lot 1 in the La Roche subdivision final plat. This petition is zoned agricultural rural reserve, or AG-RR for short. The zoning district requires a 25-foot front setback from local roads. However, if no direct frontage exists, this setback is increased to 50 feet. So the petition site derives access through an easement, and the location of the construction site does not contain direct road frontage. So this is where the 50-foot front yard setback is triggered. The petitioner has applied for an accessory structure permit, and that is R-23-1263, on hold pending approval of the variance request. This is the location and site conditions map. So nearly the entire lot is constrained by steep slopes and a large drainage easement, which limits buildable area. So on the kind of center left portion of the property, it appears open, but that is where the drainage easement is. And then their home is in the southeastern corner here. These are just some site photos of the location of the proposed carport structure, as well as the surrounding area. This is the site plan that staff made for the petitioner. So we note that the distance is somewhere between 24 and 25 feet, depending on exactly where the lot line is. And then on the right-hand side is also the petitioner's submitted site plan. And this is the La Roche subdivision final plat. And then, of course, as you can see here, we have a delineation of the very large drainage easement that exists on this lot. And then this leads us to our staff recommendation. So staff recommends approval of the front yard setback variance, citing that practical difficulties have been demonstrated. And this is given the unique environmental constraints of the property. So buildable area only exists in the location in and around the current primary residence, which does not currently meet the front setback of 50 feet due to the absence of road frontage. So any future construction on this site would be restricted, at least to the area along the southeastern corner of the property. And again, that doesn't meet the 50-foot front setback. So staff believes that a reduction of the front setback to 24 feet would bring the property not only into compliance, but also would allow for the construction of the petitioner's proposed carport. Thank you.
Thank you. That was very clear. Okay, do members of the BZA have questions for staff? I don't have any. Dee, do you?
No, thank you.
Okay, so we ask if Mr. and Mrs. LaRoche would like to speak. Please come to the podium and I'll swear you in.
Has he signed in?
Yes, he signed in. They got here early. And if you would kindly raise your right hand. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Turn on the mic.
And if you could turn on that right button until it turns green. Yeah.
Okay, it's green.
Do you swear, though, to be
Yes,
truthful?
I do.
Thank you. And you have 15 minutes to go over anything you want to with us.
Well, all it is just, I need that about the only place you can build it, and I got the 25-foot setback or right at that, and they're wanting 50, but I mean, there's nothing else around it there, so I don't have any more choices where to put it really, or if I'm going to get it built. So that's
Makes
about it.
sense. It makes sense, but we're gonna, do you have questions, Pamela?
It seems like the staff agrees with you that there are practical difficulties, which that is what you've just said to us, correct? Okay, and you've confirmed that.
So thank you. And we're going to open it up to the public. If anybody is against it, you can return to the podium and say something else.
All right.
Okay, so if there are members of the public who would like to speak in favor or in opposition to this petition, please come to the podium, raise your virtual hand, or make yourself known in some way that you would like to speak. Do we see anybody? No. So we return now to the BZA for further discussion and or a motion.
I move approval of variance 24-1, front yard setback. We don't have the address on this screen. That I'm
Oh, it
looking
is
at.
at
Okay.
5250, no, it's at 6893.
I got it now,
Yeah.
thanks to Pam.
No.
I've got 6893 North Maple Grove Road in Bloomington, Indiana. There are, I appreciate when staff spoon feeds me the proposed motion because there are practical difficulties that have been demonstrated given the unique environmental constraints on the property. Building area only exists in the location in and around the current primary residence, which does not currently meet the front setback of 50 feet due to the absence of road frontage. Any future construction in this site would have to be located within the limit area along the southeastern corner of the property, which does not meet the 50-foot setback. Front setback, a reduction of the front setback to 24 feet brings the property into compliance and allows for construction of petitioner's proposed carport.
So is there a second?
Oh, yes.
Okay.
quirky.
I don't hear you, Jackie. Yeah.
Right. Now it's on, Jackie. Jackie's on now.
Oh,
Oh,
okay,
they-
thank you.
Oh, they can't.
It's been moved and seconded to approve VAR-24-1, LaRoche front yard setback variance to Chapter 804. A vote in favor is a vote to approve the variance. Margaret Clements?
Yes.
Guy Loftman?
Yes.
Dee Owens?
Yes.
Pamela Davidson?
Yes.
Okay, it's approved 4-0.
And thank you, Mr. and Mrs. LaRoche, for coming in and working with us. Thank you. We're moving on to the last variance request for the evening, and this is VAR-24-2, All Saints Orthodox Christian Church Buildable Area Variance to Chapter 804 concerning 23.83 acre parcels in Perry Township. And this is at 6004 and 5900 South Fairfax Road. And Ms. Crecelius, if you would kindly go over this with us?
Yes, absolutely. There's an extraneous S in there, so it's 3 parcels that make up 23.33 acres.
Oh, I see.
Okay. So like you stated, the property is located in Perry Township. We're looking at the corner of Dillman Road and South Fairfax Road. So just a little context, here's some pictometry photo of the site as it currently is existing. I believe this is 2022. So the property is being utilized as the All Saints Orthodox Christian Church. So on site, this area was a former quarry. The property was developed around 2001, 2002 with these structures and this use. So as you can see, based on the contours, there are some old kind of quarry features. There's a quarry pit and some slopes that exceed 15% on the property. So just to familiarize ourselves a little more, there's 2 main structures and kind of 2-tiered parking lot. So these are plans by BRCJ of what the current site looks like. So this is a request from the buildable area standard of Chapter 804. So that's the 15% slope standard for structures. So the area of slope that we are primarily looking at is the area just north of the primary religious facility structure. So on screen is the petitioner's letter and just a survey of the 3 tracks. So in 2001, the site plan was approved for this use. In 2001, they did actually build up some of this slope here that we can see on the screen. And I'm just going to run through some of the site photos. So this area exceeds 15%. The buildable area 15% slope standard was added in 2015. Because of this, we don't necessarily have an exception for this type of slope. So the petitioners are looking at expanding the current structure out to the north towards Dillman Road and kind of utilizing some of this area for a 2-story structure, and then expanding the parking lot to the north, which I'll show in just a moment. So here's some of that slope, and then there's slope that occurs from some of those older quarry features. Mm-hmm. So this is looking southwest and looking pretty well directly west at the existing structure and driveway. And then this would be looking east or northeast. So here's a zoom out, and we're going to zoom in a little bit. So here's just an outline of the facilities that they're proposing. So on the bottom right, we can see an expansion of the existing structure with a new drive that would be possibly off of Dillman. Of course, a new drive entrance. All of this construction, all of this proposed work would be reviewed and potentially approved under a commercial site plan. At this time, a site plan has not been submitted for this work. So this is kind of conceptual, and I'll touch base on that in just a moment. So here are the proposed grades that this site plan would include, and then this just a little bit zoomed in closer to see those grades. And then in this photo here, we see an exhibit from BRCJ where they've shaded the 15% slope area. So we can see where that overlap is. Because currently we don't have a site plan review, this is kind of conceptual. So they have provided kind of a bounding box area that includes only this disturbance. That if approved, they would be allowed to disturb these areas only and not necessarily more than that. The bounding box can be seen on the site plan in your exhibits, but it includes the extent of the site plan that's shown on the screen and a little bit of that 15% area on the drive towards the new drive off of North Dillman Road. With the site plan review, any kind of development with a disturbance area greater than 1 acre will require the petition site to obtain an Indiana Construction Stormwater General Permit. So there will be a close review of earth disturbance and possible soil erosion and soil loss once the site plan review has been completed, approved, and building permits issued. The MS4 coordinator and the whole stormwater department will become involved. The MS4 coordinator will review the stormwater design during the site plan review, and the MS4 assistants will actually be on site during construction. So that will be built into the site plan review process. So for VAR 24-2, the All Saints Orthodox Christian Church buildable area variance, staff is recommending approval of the variance subject to the Highway Department reports with the following condition. And that condition is that the petitioner combine the 3 parcels that they currently own for planning and zoning purposes using the language found in Chapter 804. So this can be done by deed. You include this language. It combines the property. This would be required even at the commercial site plan review point because they would be developing across all 3 lots. So we decided to go ahead and add this in as a condition of approval.
Okay. Do you have questions for staff?
I do not.
I do. To me, the 15% is something I hesitate to get into building on that. And it looks to me like this, and this is a new construction, and I don't particularly see why them wanting to expand this property into an area that's 15% is something I would want to approve. It doesn't seem there's anything exceptional about this property that would justify that. Is there something I'm missing, or is it just? Can you address that for me?
Yeah. So I think there's a couple of factors. The first is that to the south there is a pond, and there's also an existing cemetery and other structures. Additionally, expanding to the north, that 15% slope, the biggest area that we see where the new structure would go, that was man-made and created by them in 2001. We don't necessarily have the language in 804 that gives an exact date that we utilize those slopes, a before and after when this buildable area variance is triggered. So because they are limited to the south, staff does not necessarily see any issues with an expansion to the north, especially going through the site plan review process and knowing that it will be very closely watched for soil erosion and control.
So if they hadn't built on this added property, today they wouldn't have been allowed to, and now they want to expand further into a 15% slope that they created. The 15%, can you get that? I'm sorry, I don't know which picture I'm thinking of. And it's a little that shows where the expansion would go. I'm looking at page 868. Is that? I'm looking at a picture. I'm also looking at the packet, in our packet, page 68.
Okay, one moment, I'll pull it up.
Are you sure it's not 58, Guy? Is it a photograph or a drawing?
It's a photograph.
Okay, then it's 68, yeah.
Does that look correct?
That's the one I'm looking at. Yeah. Now, it's hard for me to tell north and south and east and west in these pictures. Is these two pictures are both of the same area? Is that right?
That's correct.
And to the left of this picture, to the left of that building, is that where we're talking about building?
Yes, it is.
Okay. And it looks like there's a natural drainage that goes down there through that sort of snow-filled swale. Am I correct about that?
I cannot confirm whether that was natural. Again, the structure was built up.
An existing drainage area. So this would go further in that direction, further to the left in these pictures, and fill that. Would there be a retaining wall? What's going to be, is there going to be a retaining wall?
Well, we should ask Mr. Riggert we should ask the petitioner is it okay with you if we switch now to the petitioner?
Absolutely.
And he can answer all of those questions.
Right. That's a good
so
point.
If you would kindly come to the podium and I will swear you in. Thank you for coming tonight and bearing with us yet again to the bitter end. So do you please raise your right hand, and you have to turn on that green button on the right-hand side. Okay. And do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yes. So you have 15 minutes, and I'm sure you can answer all of the questions that Mr. Loftman has.
Yes, I can. And
Yes.
I want to thank Ann for reviewing all this and putting the package together and presenting
Great.
the case this evening for us. And with me tonight is Dan Rigsby from All Saints Orthodox Church, as well as Daniel Kenton Purdue from our office.
Great. Great.
Okay, so Mr. Loftman, I'll try to explain a little bit about the proposed church.
Sure.
Unfortunately, we didn't bring any elevations. Christine Matthew Architects prepared plans for the building addition, and it's a two-story addition that would add on to the existing church toward the north with essentially a lower level walkout sanctuary. Well, it would be the family portion of the church, like the kitchen and gathering area, with a sanctuary on the second floor. So the existing church would lead into that new sanctuary area, and then there'd be stairs and elevators down to the lower level. So we would take advantage of the slope to build out across that. And then there'll be a retaining wall along the east side of the church, along Fairfax Road side, to help build that up and deal with the slopes and bring everything together. And then drainage would be collected and conveyed to the west through the parking lot. We'd have inlets and piping that would take it to the west through the existing drainage pattern that is currently there. So it doesn't drain through that space between, in the picture Ann had up before.
On the slope, yes.
Yeah, but it really drains.
Yeah.
So right here. Built up. They built the church originally. And we actually dug up the old plans. We had a
Yes.
copy of those in our office because we evidently did the layout for it. And there were calculated points that took that existing driveway out beyond and created that slope, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
I have may I ask a question yet?
Yes.
Yes. Question. This is a former quarry
Yeah.
that this is built on. Is there any problem with, imperfections underneath the soil? Any vacuums or vacancies because of the quarry operation?
Well,
I just don't know. I've heard a lot of stories about sinkholes, not in limestone country, but other places.
Right. So what we think on that aerial image, you could see the quarry where where the water is. Now that's probably where they extracted the stone, and then this was just the balance of the site. And I really don't know when Fairfax Road was built. But they would have pulled rock out of here.
I see.
There are some remnants of, I can't really see them, but they're almost abutments where maybe they had a rail that ran back there, or derrick system to pull things out. And the church does want to preserve some of those because they actually, it fits with what they're doing.
Yes.
So where was I going to go with that? So we don't really know what kind of fill material they put on. Hopefully it was good to support the church. Now, we would recommend, well, right now I should probably back up. We're in a feasibility study. Right now, that's why we don't have a full, complete set of plans like Ann had mentioned. So we're just looking at placing a church here or an addition, and then complementing it with parking and the other improvements, and we haven't gotten into full design. But we would recommend they bring a geotech in and actually drill into that fill material and elsewhere on site to determine what the foundations and adequacy of that fill was and would be. So,
I'm so glad to hear that.
Yeah, and also the MS4 coordinator would be on site, and first of all, one of the things that I like about this project is that it uses the features of the quarry as part of the purpose of the building, so it creates more of the religious enhancements that you're able to capitalize on, and then which is not an appropriate term for a church, but nevertheless, then with the steep slope in the back, you're using that as a feature rather than a bug, so to speak, in order to work with the land and not against it. And but I don't want to take over your 15 minutes, but it seemed, I've been to the property and it's really well done, it's really well done. Yeah.
The only thing I want to make sure, Ann asked us to put a bounding box around the areas we want to be able to look at as we explore the future of our design.
Yes.
And so on numbered page 56 of the packet, there's a dark defined line that creates that bounding box. And it goes out a little bit further than our grading extents.
What is I don't even know what that is.
Bounding box?
Yeah.
I think it's a term that maybe Ann created. I don't know. She shared an exhibit with us from another project.
Yeah.
Where they didn't know exactly the shape of the house, what the house was going to be.
Yes.
So they went beyond the building and said, okay, within this rectangle or this shape, this is where we'd like to put the house.
I see.
So we know where the building would go.
Yes.
But we don't know where we're going to put a detention basin.
Yes.
And we also have to deal with septic.
Yes.
There's an existing septic system that will have to be expanded.
Yes.
So we need to have the flexibility to be able to place that or position that on the site somewhere. So there will be grading and design outside of the driveway and parking lot areas that we've had. So we did create this bounding box with the hope that that would be a considerable area as we move forward with the design.
That would both make the process more efficient and more professional altogether. So, but is there anything else you'd like to add?
Well, just not really to add, but I did have one question though. If you are so kind as to grant the variance, how long would the variance last? Because if we're going through this feasibility study and then they go into a fundraising, it may be a little bit of time before we come back and actually build something. So, and then if we have to, can we come, if there's a short fuse or period of time, say a year,
Yes.
could we come back when we're ready and then, I guess, re-ask for our variance?
I'm going to let staff answer that question.
So Bill, are you saying that if this design were to change a bit in time, would you need to come back for a variance?
I guess what I'm asking, Jackie, is I don't know how long a variance lasts. Does it last a year?
It runs with the land,
It's
so.
permanent.
you-
Yeah.
I don't have a question.
Right.
Okay.
But I can understand your concern because fundraising is difficult and the economy is uncertain
Yes.
and so are the religious situations around the world. So,
Right.
yes, so, but there's no concern here
Okay.
for that.
Yeah.
Yes,
but
Mr. Lofton.
Ms. Christina, could we go back to that aerial that you had up
Yes,
earlier? Okay.
I like that.
And again, I'm having trouble getting my north and south clear here. Would you go just sort of point to where the addition will be?
Yeah, first, this is Fairfax.
Yeah.
That's building. North is here.
Okay,
North is to your right.
thank you. And where would the addition be? On the north?
This is the new church. The new addition would right along here. There's a special orientation for the church. It has to be east and west
Oh,
for their sanctuary.
Is that a religious requirement?
With all saints or
Yes.
the Orthodox church. So you'll see that plan, but the orientation is a rectangle that runs. It has to do with sunlight and the rising of the sun and the setting of the sun.
oh,
The east and west.
wow.
Well, that's a unique feature.
That is nice.
So and then also the joining of the church so that there's not a gap existing. So it would line right along here.
Wonderful.
Parking lot.
That looks really interesting. I like it.
It looks really interesting and I'm very sympathetic with it, but I'm still concerned about, there's a self-created 15% slope.
That's correct.
But if you go down into the parking lot, is the parking lot also in a current 15% slope?
No, there's like an odd spot here, and a couple weird spots that are. Then at the time when you built this church, on the old plans, evidently they built a detention somewhere in here. So they graded that, and that's where there's another point of 50% slope.
I see.
So from what we're gathering from the old plans, the 15% slopes that we currently have in that area were created during the construction of the church, and then there might have been, but I don't know about the other little odd spots. They're very small.
Yes. I see those on this drawing, the odd spots.
Yeah, we tried to, Kenton worked hard to try to identify on the topographic survey we had
Yeah.
precisely where they were, a little bit more in detail than our overlays.
That's a nice job.
So now I'm getting a better grasp of how this is going to fit. And you're saying on the north side, Plan A, is there'll be a retaining wall. Is that correct?
Well, no, it would be along the east side here. So there's a walkway. So this is the new church right here.
Okay.
And then there's a walkway that actually goes all the way around the second floor of the church, but it lines up with the level of
Right.
there. So this wall helps us bridge that grade change. This allows us to church for the east.
So if I get it right now, a way that, so what's going to happen is you're going to build and fill a retaining wall. That will be the underpinnings, the foundation of the new building, and the landing place, the base of that retaining wall, you don't expect to be within a 15% slope.
Right. So actually, the retaining wall is part of the church. So by building this wall, to create the lower level of the church, and by taking advantage of the slope, lower level of the church, that was right about the base of the filling that in.
I'm comfortable.
Okay, good.
Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome. I can try to answer any more.
No, I get it. It's complicated to me, and I'm now comfortable with what your proposal is, and that it makes sense and doesn't create new drainage problems. It's consistent with my concerns about drainage in this area.
Very good.
Wonderful. Well, that's really nice. Thank you. If there are
You're
any
welcome.
oppositions from the public, you can come back up,
Great.
okay?
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Well, are there members of the public who would like to speak in favor of this petition? If so, please make yourself known. If there are members of the public who would like to speak in opposition to this petition, please make yourself known. And we don't see anyone, so we can move it back to the Board of Zoning Appeals for further discussion and a motion.
Does Dee have any questions?
She does
No.
not.
Do not. Thank you very much.
Okay, I'm going to move that we approve variance 24-2, All Saints Orthodox Christian Church buildable area variance to chapter 804, with the condition that they combine the 3 lots, which is necessary to grant this variance,
And subject to highway.
and subject to highway.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
I can second that.
Yes. I think we have to, there's some kind of, thank you so
Oh,
much.
yes,
They can't both be on at the same
I
time?
guess.
Oh, okay.
That's
Thank
it.
you.
Oh,
All right.
dear. Oh.
This is in regard to VAR-24-2, All Saints Orthodox Christian Church buildable area variance to chapter 804. Motion in favor is a vote to approve this variance with the condition as stated in the staff report. Guy Loftman,
Yes.
Dee Owens,
Yes.
Pamela Davidson,
Yes.
Margaret Clements.
Yes.
Okay, motion is
And
carried.
Mr. Rickert, thank you for working so well with us. I know, we really appreciate that, and for your wonderful ideas and execution of the projects. This looks like a beautiful design, and we appreciate your professionalism in dealing with us. Thank you. Okay, well, let's move on. We have just that one administrative item left is about the rules of procedure. And since Skip had made some comments before that he might be hesitant, we have a decision to make whether or not we would make this at a different meeting or if we try to discuss it and approve it tonight.
I moved to table.
Okay, so Dee has moved to table, and is that seconded?
I'll second that.
Okay, so do we need to call the roll on that?
Sure, I'll go ahead and just state it'll be on the March 6th agenda, if that works
Okay.
for everyone. Okay.
That's great.
So it's been moved and seconded to continue the changes to the rules of procedure for amended petitions to the March 6th, 2024 meeting agenda. A vote in favor is a vote to continue it to that meeting. Dee Owens,
Yes.
Pamela Davidson.
Yes, with the caveat that I will miss that March 6th meeting, as you all know, out of state.
Yes.
But do you
Yes.
have any concerns?
No.
Okay.
Okay.
No.
Margaret Clemens.
Yes.
Skip Daly, and then Guy Loftman.
Yes.
Okay, motion carries 4-0.
And thank you, Pamela, for honoring Skip's concerns and for recommending that. I appreciate it. Yeah.
Yes, thank you.
Okay. Well, everyone, you did a great job. Thank you for all of your hard work and all of the goodwill that you engendered around the community with all of these presentations and the good working with the public. We all
I would-
appreciate that.
Before we adjourn, I
Yeah.
would point out, I'm sort of impressed that there were 2 petitions filed in 2024, and they have both been heard within the next month.
Good point.
That's a good job.
Efficiency.
You know, I think that
Efficiency.
that serves us and serves the public, and
Yeah.
somebody did something right, and I appreciate it,
Yeah.
as usual.
We appreciate you guys reading the packet and showing up and voting, so thank you.
Thank you. Okay,
That's
everybody have a great night. That was a
Thank
good
you.
way to end the
Good,
week.
good. All right, thank you.
Thanks. Yes.